Welcome to the Experience Local, live with Russ and Scott and our guest, Scott Michaels.
Hello, and welcome to the Experience Local with Russ and Scott. Each week, they bring you conversations with local Christian businesses and business owners. Join in every Monday live at 9 a.m. Pacific on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. The Experience Local is brought to you each week by wonderful sponsors.
Guild Mortgage. Contact Buddy Puckett at 503-851-8031. NMLS number 270057. Independent Merchant Brokers. Low cost and no cost debit and credit card processing. 877-460-4747. IndependentMerchantBrokers.com. Tim Rist at Discover Oregon Real Estate. On the web at DORLLC. Find your people, find your home. Adams Rib Smokehouse, 1210 State Street, Salem, Oregon. 503-362-2194. AdamsRibSmokehouse.com. Boson Hub Digital Development encourages you to join in supporting the Alzheimer Association's Walk to End Alzheimer's, alz.org.
And now, your hosts for the Experience Local, Russ and Scott.
Good morning, everybody. Russ and Scott here, and we are so pleased to have you all here today. It is going to be an amazing day. But first thing, I want to tell everybody how excited we are to have you here. But also, I want to tell you that I'm going to put this overlay up again, that we're so thankful for Discover Oregon Real Estate, who is our newest sponsor. Also,
well, we love it.
Just want to be thankful for everybody being here today. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, Discover Oregon Real Estate, new sponsor. Glad to have them on board. Thank you for all that they're doing in the community and the different perspective that they bring to real estate. So thank you for sponsoring us this month.
There you go. And you are bright and cheery today, Scott. Where are you?
Yeah, I am sitting in the concourse at the Portland airport, and I look and find a spot. Oh, this is going to be the perfect spot. But there's this skylight overhead with the gaps where the sun can come through. And the spot that I picked and set up, turns out that the earth rotates and makes the sun appear in a different spot. And now it's right in my face. And so I'm a little washed out, but hey, we're here local with the Experience, and we got a special guest today.
Oh my goodness. Yes, we do. We are so thankful for our good friend, Scott Michaels, who's with us today. And Scott is the guy that makes the wheels turn at Hope 107.9 and KWIL. He is the reason that we are here broadcasting not only live on social media on the Hope 107.9 Facebook page, but also are on the radio tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific for all of your listening pleasure tonight. Love that. And got some more surprises coming up that we'll tell you about later shows, but we're just thankful for Scott and all that he does. And I think we should just jump in and get the show started. What do you think?
Yeah,
Scott?
Always. We want to get to the good part, and that's our guest, Scott Michaels.
There you go. Hey, just want to remind everybody before we bring Scott in that we're here every week broadcasting live on social media, as the intro said. And don't want you to forget that 9 a.m. Pacific every week. And also, we are on radio 6 p.m. Just wanted to drill that in and remind you, please comment today in the Facebook page on Hope 107, because amazing things could happen and you could win. And with that, let's get Scott in the room. We have the two Scotts today. Hey, Scott.
Good morning, guys. And Scott, good morning to you. I recognize that airport concourse. I think
I know you've been in it many times. So yeah, it's fun to be able to it's fun to be able to set up mobile, but let's talk about Scott Michaels.
Let's do that. Hey, Scott. So let's start off with, who is Scott Michaels? What are you up to? Give us a little snippet on you.
Sure. Scott Michaels is a father, a follower of Jesus, first and foremost. I have three great kids. A 24-year-old son lives in Salem and works in the retail industry as an assistant manager. I've got a 20-year-old daughter who's going to college, and I believe it will be transferring to Oregon State soon. She wants to go to a school for sports marketing. So desperately wants to work in the sports field and is looking forward to that. And then my youngest daughter just graduated high school a few weeks ago. And she is, I think, like a lot of kids her age, trying to figure out what she wants to do. And I'm very blessed with those three kids. I'm the station manager here at Hope 107.9. And guys, other than that, a huge basketball fan, Portland Trailblazers, and grew up in Oregon. So this is my home state.
Well, I love it. And Scott, I was driving through Independence last week and saw you and the booth and the team there in Independence. We circled around after an errand, and I got to meet your daughter. And she was telling me a little bit about what she's doing. She was actually involved in the rebranding. So one of the things we like to talk about is how you integrate your family and your faith into work. I just thought that was a great place to start.
Well, you met my daughter Zoe. She's my youngest, and thanks so much for stopping by. In fact, what I'll also say is I was standing alongside the road there in Independence, actually making a phone call, and as I'm doing that, here comes driving by Scott Smith, and is Scott. They'll say, okay, it was great to have you out there at the event. But yeah, my daughter Zoe, along with my daughter Kayla, both help out here at the radio station with events. Kayla, my oldest, is helping with some digital stuff. But yeah, Zoe especially was involved in our rebrand. She's got a very artistic flair and paints and does all kinds of design things. And so brought her on board to kind of help out with thoughts and create some ideas. And she did a great job with it, I thought. We love how the new logo looks. And if you haven't had a chance to go to the hope1079.com website, encourage you to do that. We've kind of freshened up the radio station. And yeah, both of my kids, both my daughters, I should say, we're pretty involved in that.
Yeah, Scott, it's amazing. I'm just so thankful to have gotten to know you because you are such a family man and such you just have such a local spirit in all that you do. And, one thing that we really focus on this show, and I know you guys do at the station, is really our local community. And Hope 107.9 and KWIL 790 are so great at really being involved in the community. I've known Carol for years. I've known other people at the station that are just doing amazing things in the community. And that's so important. So when it comes to local and it comes to all the things that you guys stand for, how do you really see the station reaching out to people and making that impact?
Well, as a faith-based station, our goal is to help people grow closer to Jesus. Now, that may be people who have followed Jesus for many, many years. It may be people who haven't made a decision to follow Jesus yet. And so how can we help them grow closer to that decision? But for us, it starts with service. It starts with looking at a community, looking at our community and saying, how can we serve the people in this community, whether they're Christ followers or not, and being able to move forward locally and with that passion, I think has been really key to what we're trying to do. Now, we're not perfect. We haven't figured it all out yet. This is conversations that our leadership team has every single week where we try to determine how do we serve the community best. And we believe by serving, we do a great job then of reaching more and more people.
Yeah.
And I love just the whole aspect of hope. And talk a little bit about the structure, because we've got the radio station. We got two radio stations. We have Extra Mile Media and Friends of Hope. And so when people are donating or they're buying advertising, how does that all work?
Yeah, great question. It's a really unique situation that we have here with our structure, and I'm glad you asked it. So people may have heard of Extra Mile Media. Extra Mile Media is the company that runs the radio stations, Hope 107.9 and AM 790 KWIL. When you buy advertising from Carol or Paul or Angelica, you're working with Extra Mile Media. Now, our ownership, who actually owns Extra Mile Media, is known as Friends of Hope. And Friends of Hope is a nonprofit that was started in order to support Christian radio in the Willamette Valley. So when you give to support Hope 1079, and we should say we're very thankful for the hundreds of people that we have who donate, will give $30, $40 a month. When you give those gifts, it's going to Friends of Hope, which then supports Hope 1079 in a big, big way. In fact, I think it would be fair to say that the station would not be here if it wasn't for both our community advertising supporters and our listener supporters. So we feel blessed. There are many Christian radio stations out there that rely on one or the other because of the legacy of the ministry of Friends of Hope and Extra Mile Media. We're able to rely on both, and it's really a great thing. Scott, I've been blessed to see quite a few different Christian radio stations and their setup, and I got to say, this is one of the best ones I've seen from a financial support model.
Yeah, well, see, and I love that because being part of the community and giving the local community that chance to support and tangibly show that they really want this in their community, I think is so important. I think that I know that over the years when we've been able to give and make a difference in things like Hope 107, it's really kind of gives you a little bit of skin in the game, makes you more connected to them. And I know that you guys also go out and are involved in community events and things like that as well. That I know that I used to see Carol all the time at chamber meetings and different things like that. So I think that's important as well. The question I want to ask you though is, this all comes back to our faith, and it's great to be able to support believers in business, people that are really making an impact in the community locally, but also are followers of Jesus Christ, which is so important. How does your faith play into you getting involved in Christian radio?
That's one of my favorite stories to tell. And I got to tell you right off the start, I give credit to my parents. My mom and dad taught me from a very early age who Jesus was and who he is. Now, when I was about 16 or 17, I started working full-time in radio, and I worked in Portland at a very small Catholic-owned radio station. And there were born-again Christian Catholics at this radio station that really allowed me, I grew up in a Christian home, but as I worked at the station, as I was exposed to the gospel every single day, my faith turned from just something that my parents taught me to something that I really engaged and believed, that I really saw an impact in my own life. And it started because of Christian radio. And I mentioned that, it was a Catholic-owned radio station, but was a station much like ours here that was about serving the entire community. So really being exposed to Christian radio is what solidified my faith. And again, lots of credit to my parents who just raised me so well. And at least I think they did. I hope they would think that as well. But Christian radio has been the majority of my career. I feel called to ministry. Everywhere I've been, I really believe has been a ministry. And that's one of the keys that I think early on, I learned maybe in my early 20s is, you don't have to be a preacher to be in ministry. You don't have to be an evangelist to be in ministry. Anything we do can be ministry when we do it for Jesus. And so I've been blessed to be able to have that opportunity and really been in Christian radio my whole life.
That's awesome.
And just remind everybody, today's guest on the Experience Local Live with Russ and Scott is Scott Michaels, General Manager, Station Manager for Extra Mile Media, Hope 1079 Radio, Quill for Christ, and also streaming online for those who are not in the local area or happen to be at the Portland airport and want to be listening in to Hope 1079. You can do that globally. So Scott Michaels, we're so happy to have you here. And coming to Hope and Albany was not new for you as the station manager. You had spent time coming to the station. Can you talk a little bit about your ministry and how that works and supports stations across the country?
Yeah, I had known Hope 1079 for many, many years. Randy Davison, my predecessor, who's still with our organization and is heading up Friends of Hope, our nonprofit, he had reached out to me years ago to help out with fundraising. our on-air events that we do, or we ask listeners to support. And because of Randy and some other people, I literally was working full-time in the fundraising field and did that for about 3-4 years. Went out to a lot of radio stations. Scott and I joke that I knew the Portland airport well because of how many times I flew in and out of Portland to go to different radio stations and truly help them with their fundraising. And I think it's tough sometimes to talk about faith and money. There's can be a lot of concern about that, and I get it. But one of the things I really believe, and it's one of the reasons why I love being here at Hope 107.9 now, is if you do fundraising well, if you talk about the stories of what God does when people give and how he uses a ministry to make an impact like Hope 107.9, fundraising itself can be a ministry. And so that was something that myself and a few colleagues who I worked with in the fundraising agency, if you will, to put a professional term on it, we really believed that this wasn't just about getting as many dollars as we could from listeners, but rather engaging ministry through fundraising. And again, I get that sometimes, there's some sketchy things, unfortunately, that happen with fundraising. I believe those of us who are in a ministry setting, it's really on us to make sure that we're completely transparent and open with where the dollars are going, and not fundraise in a manipulative or pressure-filled way, but rather in a way of generosity and an invitation to join the ministry.
Yeah. I think that is what it all boils down to. And that is your intentions for things that you do. I think when we're really authentic and we are really living our purpose in life with the radio station and ministry, it's all about that. It's all about Jesus. Your whole purpose is laid out in front of you. But I think that sometimes people get off track and the money can become a distraction. It can become an issue instead of it becoming part of, because God loves a cheerful giver, right? God loves for us to give to things and to be supportive of things. And so I just think that is so important to make sure we have our priorities straight in all that we do. And, in your, you've been able to move around a lot. And I'm just kind of curious, obviously Oregon is your favorite. So, except for when it's 100+ degrees, but Oregon is your favorite. But what have you been able to see that's really interesting, people might be interested in around the country that, has been just really interesting part of your life?
Yeah. You know what? We live in a great country and so many different unique places that are very, very neat. Most of my career was spent in northern Minnesota, in Duluth, Minnesota, and we really fell in love with that area. We were there for about 10 years. Before we moved home. I've also been blessed to work down in the Los Angeles area. And I know a lot of people go, oh, Los Angeles. We really actually liked it. We were there for a couple of years and then spent some time up in Seattle as well, Vancouver, British Columbia, that area. And I guess I should say, I always say this, about 5 minutes in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. There was one stop in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I think we were there for 4 months and it just did not work out the way we had hoped. But, one of the things that I've noticed throughout the country, and I've been blessed to be in this for, 20+ years now, everybody is looking for hope. Now, it may look different in different places. And I'm not talking about Hope, the radio station. I'm talking about hope, the, belief in a better future, the peace and calm that comes from following Jesus. Everywhere I've been, people are looking for that. It may look a different way. It may even be talked about in a different way, depending on, what part of the country you're in. But every place, families, moms, dads, kids, grandparents are looking for hope, are looking for something bigger than themselves. And I believe that's one of the things that Christian radio does best is providing that soundtrack and those reminders every day that we can choose to be hopeful. We can, no matter how crazy the world is, we can choose to focus in on hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you mentioned these different locations that you've been at, and this is one of the things that was really exciting about bringing you in as the manager there at Hope and KWIL, was that you have a broad experience, but you also have a vision for the future. Because radio has been changing over the years, obviously, and auto manufacturers are talking about not even adding broadcast radios into the cars anymore because people are using streaming services or satellite radio. So what are some of the changes that you've seen, and what do you see coming up, and how might that affect our local listeners?
Great question. And it is one that we talk about almost every single day here at the radio station. I think the biggest thing is a mindset shift to the fact that we are content. We are not just a signal over the air in a broadcast medium. We are content creators. And whether that content is on an FM radio station or an AM radio station, or whether that content is online or through an app or through a website, more and more, whether it's TV, radio, digital, it's all being combined. And what we have found, and I think that people have shown us, especially the younger generation, is people will search out the content that provides what they're looking for. And so while I know that a lot of people that work in radio, or those who used to work in radio, are feeling down about the future, I can understand if you take that viewpoint that, things are changing. Change is always going to be scary. But more often than not, change also opens up opportunity. And the reality is that the technology we have now, rather than just being restricted to Albany, Corvallis, Eugene, Salem, we could create a website that reaches the entire state of Oregon. We could create a podcast that reaches well beyond the state of Oregon. So I think that the biggest thing, Scott, to that question is not thinking about things the old way, where it's just a linear radio stream that comes out of the speakers, but rather, here at Extra Mile Media and Friends of Hope, we are content creators and content that brings people closer to Jesus. And there's really no limit on what we can do there.
Yeah, I think that is something you guys do such an amazing job at. That is the content and really focusing on the purpose of that content. And, I've been involved with the station for years now, and I've seen, things change as they go along, but it just seems like since you've stepped in, we've had so many great positive things happen. In fact, we were just talking about you guys getting involved with the Strawberry Festival and concerts coming in. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We were so thrilled. I want to thank Jenny at the Strawberry Festival. She reached out to us, several months back and said, my heart is to really have a Christian concert on Sunday afternoon at the Lebanon Strawberry Festival. Now, those of us in the Valley, we know the Lebanon Strawberry Festival is a big deal. I mean, that goes on all week long. Lots of people. We were able to partner with Jenny and the Strawberry Festival to bring out a Christian artist. His name is Micah Tyler. It was Sunday right after what normally would be the community church service they do at the Strawberry Festival. And it was a great time. Now, I was telling Russ right before, if you were there, it was typical Oregon. It was raining. It was wet. Certainly not the weather we were hoping for. But still, hundreds of people came out for that free concert. And we feel that really was, again, content being created, musical content in a live setting that helped bring people closer to Jesus. And I think our goal, our hope, no pun intended, is to continue to work with the Strawberry Festival. I don't want to share too many of Jenny's words, but I believe, their hope is that Sunday becomes the Christian concert day at the Strawberry Festival. So we're constantly looking for opportunities to bring concerts into the area, to partner with events that are already happening that maybe we'd like to add a Christian concert. It was great, and I won't go on too much about this, but what was great about the Strawberry Festival is we've got the megaphone to broadcast the event, to advertise the events coming up. They have the infrastructure to host an event like that, and it was really a great partnership.
Oh,
I just
great.
love the whole local thing. Of course, this is the Experience Local Live with Russ and Scott. Today's guest, Scott Michaels, General Manager at Hope 107.9 KWIL, Extra Mile Media, Friends of Hope, all together in one little tiny building right there on Sandy Am, outside of Albany, on your way to Lebanon in the Strawberry Festival. Scott, I want to focus on the local, because this is one of the things that differentiates Hope 107.9 from other Christian stations out there. Can you talk more about what it means to be local?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to the service element of who we are and what we do, that we want to be able to serve those who listen to us and maybe those who haven't started listening yet. And so being able to be local is key to service. I really believe that. And I'll just say right off the top, hey, we have great friends who do Christian radio from a national standpoint. You know, they broadcast to the Willamette Valley from studios in California or Nashville, and every single one of those people are brothers and sisters in Christ. We love them. We celebrate that ministry. But even they themselves would say, you know, when there's a wildfire, when there's flooding, when there's a traffic jam on I-5, they can't really serve the local listener and let them know that information or let them know what's going on. We can do that here. And the other thing that I think is important when you think about some of the things that we have faced in the past few years in Oregon, and again, I think of that summer of wildfires that we had. Not only could we minister to those who were truly in terrible situations, but we could motivate the rest of the listeners to be involved in helping others. You know, the concept is kind of this good neighbor type of radio station where we want to be the good neighbor. If there's something going on in Lebanon that they need help with, we can tell the Willamette Valley, and we will tell the Willamette Valley. I think part of choosing hope and talking about, you know, a little bit ago that listeners are looking for hope. I believe listeners are looking for ways they can make an impact. We look around our world and we say, wow, so much is not the way we would prefer it to be, but what can I do? And with a radio station like Hope 107.9, we can motivate listeners to do things that truly make an impact every single day.
Yeah, and I think you're doing that. And that's what I love about everything that's going on there. And Scott, we appreciate you so much being with us today. We are going to wrap things up here, but first I want you to just take a minute here and give your gold nugget of our conversation today, what you really want people to remember from our conversation, and how do people get in touch with you? Because I'm sure they want to get involved.
Oh, absolutely. So I've been thinking about that gold nugget question, and it is this. One of the most impactful sermons I've ever heard was from a gentleman named Louis Giglio. And he's with the Passion Movement. And if you Google him, you'll find a lot of great stuff. But I remember him giving a sermon, and I must have been in my early 20s when I heard it. But he was saying that basically anything you do, whatever your passion is, whatever you are called to do it in excellence. And do it for Jesus. And whether that means you're a plumber, whether you're designing jeans, whether you're running an insurance agency, do it with passion and do it for Jesus, and know that he's going to use it to make an impact in the lives of people around you. So don't think that you have to be in full-time ministry in order to be in ministry, because you are in ministry in every single thing that you do. I love talking to people. If people have questions about the station or anything like that, they can email me, scott@hope1079.com. I also know there's an Extra Mile Media address on the screen there, but maybe easier, scott@hope1079.com.
All right, we'll get that on there, Scott, and make sure we have that there for you. And just really appreciate you being here today. What a blessing you are to me and to this community. And thanks again. We're going to say goodbye. Hang tight in the green room. We're going to say goodbye to you, though, for today, and have a blessed day. Wow.
What fun. What fun. What fun. Yep. Well, they're going to call my plane in minutes, so I'm going to have to jump. But Russ, always wonderful to hang out with you. But this is a 1-year celebration for you with your cancer journey, your last surgery. Many blessings and
thank you.
Wonderful health.
Thank you. And we'll see you next Monday. Thanks for being here, everybody. All right. Goodbye.
Thank you for tuning in to The Experience Local with Russ and Scott. Listen to the program on Spotify or wherever you listen to fine podcasts. Join in every Monday live at 9 a.m. Pacific on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. We look forward to seeing you next time on The Experience Local with Russ and Scott.